One of my favorite things to do in PHP is to create a template. Every page that we've been working on in this course so far has pretty much been a one script page that handles an HTML form, sorts arrays, performs calculations, and so on. As you begin to develop multiple page websites, it quickly becomes impractical to repeat common elements on multiple pages. On more sophisticated and larger websites, many features, such as the HTML design, will be used on every or almost every page within the site. You can put these elements into each page, but when you need to make a change, you'll be required to make that change over and over again to all of the pages that are part of the website. Now, obviously, if you have a small website, it's probably not that big a deal, but if you're dealing with a website that's hundreds of pages, this becomes impractical. In order to save time, you can create templates that separate out repeating content from the page-specific materials. Now, we're going to be using this website as an example, and this website is not a humongous website. It's only about 5 pages. But the owners do have plans. They want to take this website and they want to make a full Loch Ness Monster archive website. So it has the potential for using many, many pages. We're going to go ahead and we're going to create a template so that we can separate out the repeating content from the page-specific materials. If you look at the several pages that make up my website, there are common elements: the logo, the navigation bar, the footer bar, and if I go to the other pages of my site, you can see that the only areas of the website that are really changing are this middle section of content. The header section, the navigation, and the logo are all remaining the same on all of our pages. Depending on your website, you may identify other items that are prevalent on many pages of the site, and you could include those as template-based items as well. When you first start doing dynamic web development, creating and using templates can be daunting. The key is to start with a basic prototype. So think as if you were creating a static web page and then divide that prototype into reusable parts. In our example, we already have many of the pieces, but we're going to rebuild this website using templates so that you can see how flexible and convenient this can be. Once you have your basic prototype, you'll want to start thinking in a way of just creating a regular static page, and then you're going to divide that prototype into reusable parts. We'll be using PHP functions so that you can easily include the repeating parts in each page generated on a page-by-page basis. To create the template, let's start from the Nessie website and treat this as our prototype. If we look at the HTML code for the pages, there are going to be many common elements, not just the elements that I showed you in the front-end portion of our website, but also the head section altogether. This is pretty much the same on all of the pages. The things that are going to be different are the path to some of the external media that I'm using within my website. And as you'll see, there's ways that we can deal with that as well. I'm going to take my index page and I'm going to save it as template.html. I'm just going to save this in my root directory. I'll click save. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add some HTML-based comments that are going to identify the area of the website that will be changeable. So everything up until this comment is going to be the same on all of the pages. All of the pages will have the same head section. They're going to have an opening body tag. They'll have a header tag that contains the image of my website, along with the nav tag that's going to contain the navigational links. This tag, the main tag, is going to contain changeable content. So depending on what page of my website you're going to be on, this content is going to swap out. This comment is just for your own benefit. It's not needed at all to actually create the template, but it can be helpful to indicate where the page-specific content begins. I'm also going to make another comment that specifies where the changeable content is going to end. Now that I have that content identified, I'm going to select all of the content that appears before the begin changeable content comment. I'm going to copy this content and I'm going to create a new page. We'll save the new page, and for right now, I'm just going to create a new folder called templates, and we're going to save this portion of the page as header.html. Then I'll paste in the content that we had copied previously. This is the basic header file that's going to create the HTML information. It's going to include our link out to our CSS file, an external JavaScript link that is going to bring in the fonts that I'm using, as well as the links that are going to go out to the images and the pages and whatnot. Now, it is worth noting that this page is incomplete as stands. And if we open it in the browser, you'll see that we have a broken image, no CSS, and therefore much of the formatting that we had specified is missing. Don't worry, we'll be changing this eventually. Let's go back into the template file, and I'm going to select everything that follows the end changeable content. I'm going to copy this information. I'll make another new file, and I'm going to save this file in my templates file, and we'll call it footer.html. And then I'll paste in the content that's going to go with the footer. So once again, this page, if we save it, it's going to show that the file is incomplete. And because this file is just like a partial, it's a little piece that we're going to be pulling in so that we can use it to complete our entire website. You can save development time by creating separate pages for particular elements and then incorporating them into the main PHP pages while using specific functions. The two functions that we're going to be looking at are include and require. Both functions work in the same way, with one relatively key difference. If an include function fails, the PHP script is going to generate a warning, but it will continue to run. Conversely, if a require function fails, it terminates the execution of the script. Both include and require incorporate the referenced file into the main file. For clarity's sake, the file that has the include function or the require function line is the including or the parent file. The result is going to be the same as if the included code were part of the parent file in the first place. Understanding this basic idea is key to making the most of external files. Including a file makes it as if that file's contents were in the parent script to begin with. This means that any code within the included file, not within the PHP tag, is treated as HTML. And this is true regardless of what extension the included file has, because it's the extension of the including file that counts. So with that being said, I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to save this file in my folder, and I'm going to save it as index.php. It's going to be in my root folder, so it will exist right along next to the original index.html. I want to begin this page by starting off with PHP tags. I'm going to make a little comment, which of course is not required, but just makes things a little bit easier, stating that this page will use templates to create the layout. Since we already have our files that we want to include, header and footer, we're going to use the include function to incorporate them into the parent file so that we can create the complete HTML page on the fly. To include the pages, I'm going to use the include function, and in the parentheses, I'm going to put the path from this page to the files that I want to pull in. So in this case, from my index.php file, I need to go into my templates folder and I need to find my header.html file. Now I'm going to go ahead and place the closing PHP tag on my page. Next, I'll create some placeholder content. So I'm going to keep the same structure that I wanted to use in my original site. And my original site uses the main tag, then it has two section tags. And the first section tag is going to contain an H1, and the second section tag is going to contain the content that's going to appear on the page. So here, we'll just create some placeholder information. I'll create an H1, and then in column B, I'll create an H2 and a paragraph with some lorem ipsum text. This will allow me to ensure that I'm seeing some content on the interior part of my page. Next, I'm going to create an opening PHP tag, and I'll just go ahead and make my closing PHP tag as well. And what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll use the include function again, and we're going to navigate to our footer.html file. So when we look at this page is looking like an incomplete page. But remember that everything that appears before main, So our opening HTML tags, our head tag, our links to the CSS and any other relevant files, page title, and as well the header tag containing the logo and the navigation. That's going to all be generated from this line of code right here. Our footer is going to be generated from this line of code that we included here. Let's save this page, and I'm going to go back out to the browser, and I'm going to navigate to the index.php file. Now, as you can see, the page looks exactly like the HTML file, except that it's going to contain our placeholder information. All of the buttons are there, the footer is there, and if I was to click the buttons, as long as those pages exist, it should navigate to any existing pages, which it does. I'll click the back button so that we can get back to our PHP file. It is important to point out that in order to be able to use external files, you need to understand file navigation on your computer or your server. Just as you must correctly refer to other pages in HTML links or images in websites, you have to properly point a parent file to the included scripts. You can do this by using absolute or relative paths. Now, you may have noticed that when we tried to view our HTML template file in the browser, everything was broken. But when I go ahead and view the index.php file, everything appears as it should. And that's because even though header.html is inside of the template folder, this code is being pulled into this document, so the path is going to still work just fine.